And welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Haney versus Lomachenko fight. If you are new around here then you have to subscribe, please do so, like the video if you do need like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Haney is 29-0 with 15 KOs and Lomachenko is 17-2 with 11 KOs. This fight is for the IBF WBA Super, WBC and WBO World Lightweight Championships or titles. Haney's last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus Kambosos Jr. and Lomachenko's last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus Ortiz. This fight is, in my opinion, the biggest currently made boxing fight at the moment. Obviously, we're coming off the big fight of Tank versus Garcia, but now I think made actually going to happen wise fights, there's not really many bigger than this currently made at the moment. I think obviously Inoue versus Fulton Jr. is a huge fight as well, but I think for the moment Haney versus Lomachenko, of course, is also other big fights on this weekend, which I'm going to do predictions for, but this is the fight that I'm most excited for this weekend. Maybe it shouldn't be as a British boxing fan with other huge fights going on, but in my opinion, this is the fight which I'm going to be taking my most attention to, and it is going to be the fight which I'm most looking forward to. And that's just because of how good of a matchup it is, and it's good to see these 50-50 matchups actually happening in boxing and finally happening. Haney, though, he's coming in and he's got a 5.5-inch reach advantage, so bigger reach advantage. People have been talking about the size of him and if that is going to play much of a factor, and I think from the way he does fight, it definitely could play a large factor, and I'll speak more about it in a minute. Of course, this is Haney's country of America. Lomachenko's losses have come against Lopez in 2020 and Salido in 2014. And so, I mean, that's Salido one you don't really speak too much about because, I mean, he was thrown into a world title shot just in his second fight, and that was ages ago. And Lopez, I mean, obviously, since then he's been on, I believe, a 3-fight win streak, 2 or 3, and so things are changed around since then, and of course he's fought tough opposition like Ortiz since then. Lomachenko is the former WBA Super, WBC and WBO World Lightweight Champion, which was in 2019, which was arguably at this current moment in time the kind of prime of his career. I mean, he beat the likes of a Luke Campbell and a Anthony Crolla in that kind of 2019 year, and it was just a sensational year for him. And now, of course, he is looking to be able to get his belts back, and possibly his final ever chance to be able to do so. Because, to be completely honest, he's 35 years of age now. Will he get this chance again if he doesn't win it? I don't know, but I would still say that, in my opinion, he's going in with less pressure, because of course he's been through a lot recently with his old country and everything, and he's gonna be coming in as the older guy with the less people writing him off, and I think he's going to be coming in with less pressure. But of course, he is never intimidated by any fighter. But also on this card is Nakatani versus Maloney for the vacant WBO World Super Flyweight title. Of course, Maloney, his brother, won his own world title last week. But in this fight, I think that Nakatani will win via unanimous decision. I don't see Maloney getting stopped. I think it would be a good contest, but I think in the end, Nakatani is obviously this is a big step up for him, but I think he is going to be good enough. And in my opinion, this Maloney fighting, I've gotten confused about which one's which. This Maloney fight, in my opinion, is the worst of Maloney. Not saying he's bad a fighter or anything, but compared to the two, and I think Nakatani will be able to win this and stop that kind of Maloney world title charge with both of them at the moment, which is a bit of a shame for them. But yeah, in my opinion, I think that's what's going to happen. Moving on back to the Haney-Loma fight. So Haney, as a fighter, he's smart. He sets everything off the jab. I think that's why I was speaking about how that reach is probably going to play a factor. He's got an amazing jab. He's calculated. He has great feints and shot variations. He outboxes every opponent. He tries to, at least. He's very technical. He's got great footwork. He keeps opponents where he wants them. He uses reach to keep at a mid-range. He has youth on his side, and he is very sharp. Overall, an amazingly technically gifted fighter. I think in general this fight is an amazingly good technical matchup with both fighters having very high IQs and to an extent contrasting styles, or similar I suppose styles actually, ones that if they go against each other will be contrasting because it's going to be two of the same thing to an extent. But I think the difference between the two fighters is where Haney's going to have the more success at mid-range and is going to want to use his reach advantage to be able to be at this mid-range. And I don't know, this is what makes this fight so good. I don't know if Lomachenko can be outsmarted by Haney. That's the question. I don't know. It's something which I'm sure there is a possibility of it being the case, and him being able to sneak shots through, catching Loma off guard and everything like that. But I just think Lomachenko is such a different challenge to what Haney's faced and what most fighters ever will face, and that's what makes him pound for pound an amazingly good fighter. I don't think he's up there with the best right now. I think if he wins this fight, then he's shot back straight into it. But for the moment, I don't think he is quite yet. But overall, this is why this fight's so good. I suppose the negatives of Haney, there's always the talks about the lack of knockout power. Yeah, there's been elements of that recent times, especially against Cambozas. Obviously, there's going to be critics there. There's going to be critics with whenever you're doing well. That's just life with in general, and especially the case in boxing. And so I think there's been fights where Haney's tried to prove them haters wrong and come in more aggressive and try and fight in closer. And that's where he's maybe struggled a little bit more in his fights. I've never seen him actually fully out of his depth though. But I would just say if he's ever looked to an extent baddish, then it is going to be because he's trying to prove people wrong. And it's just something that you don't need to do. You need to box your own game. And he did that very well versus Cambozas. And that's why I think he was so convincing. He can, to an extent, lose/switch off in certain rounds. Possibly more towards the later rounds because he normally wins, I'd say 9 to 10 rounds. And then possibly a couple of them he will just kind of switch off, especially against good opponents. But it can be all down to just coasting a little bit. I don't know, but at times I'd say he's even overconfident and just thinks, "Oh, I've got the win now," and it doesn't really matter. So and I'd say also he's not as good in close as what Lomachenko is, and so if he is going to want to prove people wrong and be more aggressive, I wouldn't say this is the fight to do it, to be completely honest, because if he is wanting to fight in close, that's just going to be perfect for Lomachenko. And so let's speak about Lomachenko. In my opinion, like I said, I don't think he has as much pressure. Of course, he's a southpaw, one of the trickiest southpaws around. He's an inside fighter. He gains confidence throughout fights. He has great movement. He punches, he throws from every angle. His punches, the way that he can find gaps and always find gaps, it's just amazing. I don't know, I've never seen somebody be able to that's not a word, calculate and be able to do some stuff like he does and be able to find the gaps that he does at all times and be so accurate and be so fluid and never look like he's forcing it or in general anything like that. It's just so impressive, and he will mentally break you down. If he sees a weakness mentally, he will exploit that, and that will be just one of the breaking points that he can be able to find out. And he's done that against a lot of his opponents, and at times he's forced opponents to be able to basically quit because they can't keep up with him, and they don't have the mental strength to be able to carry on going with him. And it's just so impressive, and it's shows why he's such a good fighter. And Haney, obviously he's the younger guy, but if he's not faced this, I don't know if he has faced this exact adversity before. If Lomachenko does end up having success and being able to take Haney to these deep waters, can he deal with it? I don't know. That's a question that I have to see and have to have answered. Of course, like I said, he improves later on. He does often frustrate his opponents. Like I said, he's never intimidated. The negatives, of course, there's father time. A lot of people has been kind of focusing on that. Of course, he's 35 years old now. He's been through a lot in his career. He's achieved a lot, and there's question marks about when he'll be able that everything will kind of catch up to him, and if he'll be able to even deal or fight the same as what he used to. I don't know when that will be. I still think to an extent now he's just looking the similar kind of level to what he was before. I don't think there's been a massive, or to an extent any kind of drop off in my opinion. I still think he is fighting so well, and this is a very, very good chance for him to cause an upset here. He is a bit of a slow starter, which can cause him to lose the earlier rounds. I think Haney, if he's when he is going to have success, and it's not if, it is when he will definitely have success in the fight. It would, in my opinion, definitely be in the earlier rounds, and unless Lomachenko wants to go in with some different kind of game plan, which I wouldn't even really recommend to be honest, I think that Haney will definitely find success in the earlier rounds and definitely be able to kind of set his own rhythm, but then Lomachenko will push that more later and will improve later on in the fight, like I've said. He will, in my opinion, be outboxed if he's not on the inside Lomachenko. I think Haney's mid-range fighting will just be too much if he is wanting and able to be able to keep on the outside and keep Lomachenko from coming in, but that's a tough task in itself, and so that's question marks on if he'll be able to do that. Of course, Haney is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Lomachenko will win via split decision. I think it's going to be an immensely close fight. I think technically wise, it's going to be an amazing fight. I'm going to be trying my best to be awake and about for it, saying it's UK times. I think it's about 4 a.m. But it's a fight which I really, really don't want to miss. And I think it'll be an amazing fight. I know a lot of people are saying that Haney will win, and that's fair enough. I mean, he's proven how good he is. But in my opinion, I think Lomachenko will just be going in with that nothing to lose attitude, and later in the rounds especially be able to claw it back, and maybe if he can get a decent handful of rounds, in my opinion, just sneak it. And then, I mean, if it's this close, and I feel like there has to be a rematch, and I wouldn't hate for there to be a rematch. But I also think with Lomachenko's kind of not really caring too much about, like, obviously he's created such a legacy at the moment, and I think he's at a point in his career where he does just want to fight the best and doesn't really care too much about if he has to do mandatories or anything like that. I think he does just want to fight the best, and so I think if he wins, and obviously that's a huge task in itself, but if he wins, I think then and he doesn't end up rematching Haney, Shakur Stevenson is where he's going to look to go. I don't really know what's going on too much with Tank at the moment, with everything going on with court and everything with him. So I think Stevenson, he will definitely be up for that, and I think he will definitely be wanting to prove in his kind of mind that he is still amazingly gifted, which he is. But if he can beat somebody like Stevenson, which everybody's saying is the toughest test for Haney and the best lightweight around at the moment, then Lomachenko's the best around, and it is answered there. And I think he isn't going to be ducking or afraid of that matchup. And if the Haney fight isn't available and he does win, then that is the fight he's going to want. I don't think he's going to want any lesser mandatories than that. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Let me know your prediction in the comments below. It is a fight, like I said, which I cannot wait for. And yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like if you did, like this, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.